Continue to make new chess pieces by experimenting with different shapes. For example, we will take this sketch and turn it into the rook. Using the Select Line tool, select the central line and use the feature Revolve Profile to revolve it 360 degrees. Then, using the Select Face tool, select the top face and make a new sketch. Click on the View on the Work Plane tool so it turns towards you. Then, using the Circle tool, draw a circle in the center on the top of the chess piece. Now click on Feature, Extrude Profile. Check the Subtract Material and Below Work Plane and enter a small value. Of course, you can control it manually by clicking and dragging on the drag handles. Then make another sketch on the same work plane. This time you will cut out a small square on the side of the chess piece. Use the dimension tools to make sure it is central. You can do this by using guidelines coming from the center of the circle, then dimension it to the edges of the square. For example, here we know that the distance from the center to the edge should be 5. Now again, extrude this. Subtract material below the work plane and to a similar extrusion depth. Now we will use the pattern tool to repeat this extrusion around the edge of the chess piece. In the Features drop down menu on the left hand side, right click on the extrusion you have just made and select Pattern. Then, using the Edge tool, select the edge of the circle. You will see a small arrow appearing, and you will notice in the Pattern Feature dialog box it is asking you to produce a circular pattern. Enter the number of times you want the extrusion to be repeated around the circle, for example 6, and enter the angle between each extrusion. You should see a yellow preview appear on your screen. If it is what you want, click OK, and you will see that we now have something similar to a rook. Of course, at any time, if we want to alter our design, we can simply go back and manipulate it further. For example, here I feel the extrusion is too deep, so I will open up the group which is made when you make a pattern, right click on the extrusion and redefine it. Change the value, click OK and press the green update button. We can also go back and edit the original sketch at this stage. Select the Line tool and locating your original sketch, double click on it. This selects the original sketch. Click on the View on the Work Plane tool so you can see it straight on. We can now use the Spline tool to manipulate the original sketch we had. Simply press the green update button and it will change to the required shape. When you have designed enough chess pieces, you can start to assemble it into one design. Make sure you have saved each piece separately. Then go to File, New, and open a blank new design. Then, using the Assembly drop down menu, go to add component and choose the different components you have made. Using the component tool, you can select each component and move it into position. You can also duplicate each component more than once by simply right clicking and going to duplicate. Give it a set number and a spacing apart. Click on the component tool and you can click and drag to separate each component. At this point, it may be useful to make yourself a board so that you can mate each component to the board. Simple rectangular shape on the base work plane as shown. Extrude it and click OK. Now, using the face tool, you can select the bottom face of each component. Hold down the shift key, select the top face of the board and go to Assembly, Mate. You can do the same with the other components. Always remember to hold down the shift key to select more than one object or face at the same time. Click on View Auto Scale so you can see the different components. Obviously, you could make an entire chess set. Move them into the positions you want. Once you have assembled all the components you want on the board, we can now add colour and texture to them. Go to File, New and Photo Album. Once the new screen has opened, you have to click on Image and New Image. You then select the design where you have assembled all your components, and it should appear. Click on the drop down menu on the left hand side and you can add different colours and textures. For example, click and drag on the gold polish to one of the components, silver or stainless steel on another, then press the update button. You can improve the quality you have by simply clicking on Image, going to Image Properties, clicking on Presentation. In the Studio tab, you can change the lighting conditions and you can also change the background or foreground. Again, update it and you will see that it casts shadows and creates a much better image. You can also zoom in, select a different view and press the update button again. Continue to experiment by adding different textures and changing the position. You can also go back into the image properties dialog box and change the type of lens. So change it to wide angle, click OK, and you will see that you get a slightly different perspective on your image. Again, zoom in and drag it a bit closer. This time I will try adding some glass. Click and drag on the glass across to the rook, right click on it, and you can actually set the colour of the glass. So we will set it to a pale blue. We will also try to add a checkerboard pattern to the actual board. And then click on the update button. You will see that you can begin to get some very interesting effects. When you click and drag the checkboard pattern across, you can right click and set material properties. You can actually set the colour for your checkerboard. So we will keep it to a traditional black and white board. Click on texture and you can enlarge the scale of the squares. Again, update it. We could now export this image as a JPEG, so we could insert it into another piece of software, perhaps Adobe Photoshop or Microsoft Word. Before that, we should show you how to improve the quality of your final JPEG image. If you click on Image Properties, you will see in the image size that you can actually change the size of the pixels. This obviously means the more pixels you have in your image, the better the final quality or printout would be. So if I change the value of the width to 2000 and the height to 1600 to keep the proportions correct, and click OK, you will see that the image disappears. You have to again update it as the green button appears at the top of the screen. This may take some time because obviously your image is a lot bigger now. Once the image has finally rendered, you can now export it by going to File, Export JPEG. You can also export as a bitmap and TIFF, but these will have a large memory size depending on how much spare space you have in your hard drive. Export as a JPEG. Make sure you click on the browse so you save it somewhere you know where it is, and give it a name. Save it. By changing the quality factor scale, you can minimize the amount of space your JPEG will take up, but you will also lose some of the quality. Keep it at 80% if you want a good quality image, or higher. Then click OK and you will have saved your JPEG. As mentioned before, we can now take that JPEG and insert it into another piece of software, for example Microsoft Word, by simply Insert Picture from File. If we locate the same place where we saved it and simply insert it. This would obviously be very suitable for creating an artist's impression of work in a GCSE or A-level folder.